AHumbleSoul, we checking back in, taking it to Detroit, placing the spotlight on Dex Osama. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the button ASAP. Hit the like button if you're messing with the video and all of that. Let's get into it. AHumbleSoul 100.
Switch your lanes in a two-seater. No shirt, just a Cuban
and a white beater.
Bitch, me and my niggas be them chopper boys. If we slide down your block, we gotta drop a boy. Pop a nigga ass back just like an EP. I swing around the corner, come back and just refill.
Hey.
Yeah, we in here. Me and this bitch. Me and this bitch like, oh.
All honey, nigga, new honey, old honey. Find a 50 in this bitch, I'm pussy. You know how we play around this bitch. Yeah.
You know, Dex Osama, somebody who represented the west side of Detroit, you know, Dexter and Collingwood to be exact. He called his section the dark side, you know. With the name like that, it's really no mystery how he got that nickname, you know what I'm saying, that reputation. You know, Dex grew up around a lot of street activity. You know, he had gangsters in his family. His two uncles that he looked up to, who he really viewed as brothers, like older brothers. You know, they both had reputations and were well known in Detroit. But you know, he came from a close-knit family, from what I understand, had a loving mother, a loving family, you know. Since a kid, he had a passion or an interest in music, just writing raps and stuff like that. Being a fan of just rap in general. His family playing stuff like NWA and Spice One, Cash Money, No Limit, all of that, you feel me? So he took a liking to writing raps and just listening to music. But he also was amazed by that street life, just watching his uncles, being influenced by them, watching the gangster films. He was mesmerized by that lifestyle as well, you know.
Hold on. Talk that shit one time, Dex. Talk that shit one time, Dex.
I gotta share keeks with nigga. I fuck around and get indicted if I fuck around and get a keek. They be like, man, arrest that nigga, the little nigga who used to drive the 750 in the vet. Dex, send them papers to his door. I'm chilling today. Hoop shorts and shit. 5 bands for the cross, bro. They don't even know it.
They ain't even know it.
Diamonds breathing and everything. Get my mans right there.
But it wasn't until his two uncles, man, were both taken out by gun violence that he went from being amazed by the streets to actually jumping into the streets, man.
It look good, baby. Taking road trip, that's why I ain't been in the hood.
Like, big 4-5, nigga. You already know how I play it, you know?
Ah, boy.
Hey, bag man, that shit even tatty.
That shit right here.
Today's money. Never even been to motherfucking Mexico. I don't even know why that's in there. 5 ball. You know?
He's opening his music about, you know, taking hits at a young age, robbing, shootouts, making money, you know, all of that, man. So just transitioning to a darker lifestyle, you know. But around this time, he still had a passion for music, but he never took it seriously. You know, he represented a clique called the Chopper Boys, who were in the streets. You know, they had a street crew, street reputation and all of that, but they, you know, had dreams to transition into the music game, and Dex was like the front runner for the crew. You know, one day he was in the studio with two well-known Detroit artists, GT and Babyface Ray, while they were putting together this song called Thousands. And Dex, man, for whatever reason, ended up going into the booth and freestyling a verse on the song.
Heard that bang bang. Fuck the Jack boys. I let my chain hang. When the lights hit the wrist, it like a gang bang. Me and B in the sleeve with a sleeve on us. And while y'all niggas out here prepping, got that cheese on us.
When the song actually dropped, it got a great reception. Dex's verse in particular, you know, people was rocking with him. That placed you know, some motivation inside of him to really take music more seriously. And although the street still had a hold of him, he began going to the studio more, recording songs, and that led to him doing shows, you know, putting out a lot of visuals. He developed a crazy buzz, man, and people started looking at him as one of the next big things, man, coming out of Detroit.
Young nigga, out here really fool. Heavy cube, this bitch is heavy. 500 grams around my neck, this bitch is heavy. These niggas talking like they body, yeah, whatever. Knock your brains on your motherfucking sweat.
His content was street. It was raw, violent and aggressive. It wasn't really different from a lot of the other street artists coming out of Detroit, man, or just in the rap game in general. But what really separated Dex from a lot of other people was his voice and his delivery. He was compared to people like Biggie or even Ice Cube, you know what I'm saying, for how he sounded and also how he delivered. He had like an East Coast, West Coast mix with his delivery, you know what I'm saying, and his cadence, his sound. And he also, he rapped on a lot of old school beats, so he pumped new life into old beats, man. He redid a lot of songs like BG's Clean Up Man to Ambitions as a Rider, or the Fugees, he redid the Ready or Not song, and so many others, man, from Jeezy to different Death Row songs, Spice One, all of that, man. So that was something else that kind of separated him and made him stand out. It placed a spotlight on him, and a lot of people gravitated to him. So he's dropping different visuals, man, getting hundreds of thousands of views. So it was just it was like overnight to a certain extent. He went from just playing around with it to taking it more seriously to becoming one of the people in the conversation for the next artist to put Detroit on, you know what I'm saying, to hold the torch for Detroit. It was one song, in particular that took Dex's career to the next level. It was called Death on Me. The song pretty much addressed, Dex feeling like there was a target on his back for stuff he had did in the streets. That's pretty much the surface level version of it, but it's deeper than that too. The song was pretty much influenced by a conversation he had with his mom. He talked to her about a dream he had one night. It was a dark cloud that was over him. Pretty much he said the Grim Reaper came to him in a dream, man, and it scared him. And he ended up talking to his mom about it, and she let him know that that's a sign that he needed to change his life because it was death on him. And from there he actually sat down with a pastor to talk about his dreams. He said that he was having them more often, that he was hearing voices, that he didn't want to go to sleep, that it was difficult for him to eat and all of that. But the street still had a hold on him. But yeah, man, ironically, that song ended up being one of his biggest hits. The song actually caught the attention of Meek Mill, and there's footage of Meek Mill, on FaceTime with Dex Osama while he's rapping his lyrics.
Yeah. Come get me. I'm in the city.
They ended up getting into the studio together, man. Meek started promoting Dex's music, and Dex pretty much he got down with Dreamchasers, man, after that. Although things was starting, to look up for Dex, he was going in the right direction with his career. He was still a wild guy. He was still in the streets. He was getting into, shootouts. He was running through his money. He was on drugs like Molly and Xanax, drinking a lot of lean to cope with his inner demons. According to a documentary that they did on Dex, Meek Mill was inviting him out to different things, but he wasn't going because he didn't feel like he was up to par. So, that left the opportunity for him to fall back into his environment in Detroit, which will ultimately lead to his demise.
Hey! Turn it up! Turn it up! Turn it up! Turn it up!
On September 7th, 2015, Dex and a couple of other people decided to go to a strip club to celebrate his homeboy Tato getting out of jail. Earlier that day, Dex's girlfriend at the time was a dancer at that strip club, the Crazy Horse, and he normally would just drop her off and keep it moving, but that night he decided to go into the strip club. The owner ended up getting him a booth, so him and his homeboys was in there chilling when he noticed that his girl went over to give a dance to a guy he had an issue with, and Dex pretty much wasn't having it. He signaled for his girl to come over to the table, and he was heated. He took the champagne that he had, poured it on her face and her head, and told her to get her clothes and get dressed so they could leave. And after that, he pulled out a gun that he was able to get into the club and let off a shot. Let off one shot, and the surveillance footage shows everybody scattering before Dex and his homeboy, they come outside, and it shows Dex letting off another shot. He's just heated and upset, and it was said that he took some Xanax, man, before they went to the club, so he was under the influence. He really wasn't in his right mind. He was looking for the car they came to the club in, but it was gone. The valet had moved the car, so he's walking around. He ends up walking back up towards the entrance where the people who put on the party at the club that night were out trying to talk to him. He was still heated, so they got into a little disagreement, and a guy that was in the crowd pulled out a gun, and shot Dex once in the chest. And all of this is on camera, you know what I'm saying? And after that, Dex takes off running when another guy comes out and starts firing shots at him. It kind of looks like there's some type of exchange of gunfire, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a little shootout, because the footage shows Dex pointing back with his gun, but you can just hear like multiple shots going off. Dex ended up running to a gas station where he put his gun in the trash can and collapsed. And by the time that the police got there, he was telling them that he couldn't breathe and that he didn't want to die. He was transported to the hospital where he passed away. He was 22 years old.
2 people have been shot, one of them fatally outside the Crazy Horse strip club. We are told that this started as an argument over a woman. One of the victims was shot in the chest and the other one was shot in the elbow.
2 people were charged with killing Dex. One guy, his name was Dex Osama, and the other guy, his name was Otis Davis. Otis Davis, the one that's on the camera pulling out a gun and shooting Dex once in the chest, he was charged with open murder, being a felon in possession of a firearm. He had actually just got off parole. He had did some time previously for another murder, and he was locked up for some years, for more than a decade, on a different murder before he was released. And he was on parole, and he had just got off parole like the year before this happened, you know what I'm saying? So he already had a track record. The other dude was a felon as well, but it didn't show like any murders on his record that he had been locked up for or convicted for. And the other guy, Dex Osama, he was charged with assault with intent to murder and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Initially they decided to take the case to trial, but they both ended up pleading guilty, to lesser charges. The dude Otis, he pleaded guilty to manslaughter and being a felon in possession of a firearm. He was sentenced to 5 to 22 years in prison. So the minimum he'll do is 5, the maximum is 22 years, for the manslaughter charge and him being a felon in possession of a gun. He's actually, eligible for parole in 2025. And the other guy, he only pleaded guilty to being a felon in possession of a firearm, and he got hit with 2 years. But yeah, man, that's pretty much the outcome of what happened in that situation. It's unfortunate all the way around. Prior to his death, Dex Osama was a rising superstar. He got down with Meek Mill's Dreamchasers. He had his own style, was building his own foundation and putting on for Detroit in his own way. But shout out to everybody rocking with AHumbleSoul, man. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the button ASAP, drop a comment, hit the like button, you know what I'm saying? Until next time, I'ma holler at y'all. 100.